My wife cheated on me with my best friend, then secretly sold our family home for $450K and hid the money to buy a new place. Now she's claiming I have no right to the divorce settlement or the cash we earned together. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing this out, but life has a way of throwing punches when you least expect it. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for 7 years. We had what looked like a perfect life on the surface: nice house, good jobs, 2 kids. But beneath all that, something was always off, and I just didn't want to see it. At first, it was little things: late nights, secretive phone calls, her suddenly being tired all the time. I brushed it off because I trusted her, or at least I thought I did. But then, out of nowhere, I found out the truth. And let me tell you, it was a punch to the gut so hard I still feel it every day. It started with a simple text message I saw on her phone when she left it unattended. Nothing unusual at first, just a message from someone named Chris, saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight." That should have been a red flag, but I thought maybe it was just an old friend. Turns out that was just the beginning. I started noticing strange things after that. She was sneaking around more, hiding her phone, deleting messages. She was acting distant, giving me excuses that didn't hold up. One night, I decided to follow her when she said she was going out with the girls. Instead of going to a bar, she went to a hotel downtown. I got there early, parked across the street, and saw her going into a room with Chris. They didn't even bother to hide it. They were all over each other, kissing, touching, the whole thing. I watched for a few minutes, just stunned, before I turned around and walked away. I didn't want her to know I saw, not yet. That was the moment I realized my wife was cheating on me with my best friend. That's the part I still can't believe: how deep the betrayal went. Lisa had always been bitchy when she didn't get her way, but I never thought she'd do something so cruel. And Chris, he was supposed to be my friend. That's what made it worse. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach all over again. I was furious, hurt, and honestly, I felt betrayed on every level. How could she do this to me? How could my best friend betray me like that? I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to understand how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind. The next morning was worse. I didn't sleep at all. I confronted her about the messages, about the hotel. She everything at first, laughing it off, calling me paranoid. "You're overthinking, Mike. You're imagining things. Chris is just a friend and I was talking about work stuff." That's what she said, with that bitchy smirk she always had when she thought she was winning the argument, but I wasn't buying it. I knew better. I pressed her, and eventually she snapped. Started yelling, calling me insecure, controlling, jealous. She said I was just paranoid and that I needed to trust her. But I could see it in her eyes: she was lying. She was hiding something, and I knew it wasn't just about the hotel. I felt sick, like I'd been punched again, but this time in the chest. I wanted to believe she was innocent, but the evidence was piling up. I knew I had to dig deeper, find out just how far this went, and what she'd been hiding from me all this time. That's when I found out about the money. I started snooping through her emails and bank statements, trying to piece everything together. What I discovered was even more shocking. Lisa had secretly sold our family home, our biggest asset, for $450, $0. I couldn't believe it. She had been planning this behind my back all along. And the worst part, she'd hidden the money, stashed it away, and bought herself a new place. She called it starting fresh, but I saw it as pure betrayal. She took everything we built together, not just the house, but my trust, my respect, everything. When I confronted her about the money, she looked me straight in the eyes and lied, claiming she had no idea what I was talking about. She said she never sold the house, never got the money, and that I was imagining things. But I had the proof: bank statements, emails, even a notarized document showing the sale. She was lying through her teeth. She always had a way of twisting things to her advantage, making herself the victim. That's what makes her so dangerous. She's a master manipulator, and she knew exactly how to spin her lies. Now, she's claiming I have no right to the divorce settlement or the money we earned together. She says I'm just angry because I got caught, but the truth is, I'm furious because she took everything from me: our house, our money, our marriage, and the respect I had for her. I've been trying to keep it together, but honestly, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know what she's planning next, but I do know I can't trust her anymore. I don't think I ever really could. This whole thing feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from, and I'm just trying to figure out what my next move should be. After I found out about the house sale and her lying about the money, everything just spiraled. I felt like I'd been punched again, only this time it was in my gut and I couldn't breathe right. I was furious, but more than that, I was hurt. How could she do this? How could Lisa, the woman I trusted with my life, betray me like this? I kept asking myself that over and over, but I knew deep down there was no real answer. She was a bitch, plain and simple, and she didn't care about me, about us. All she cared about was herself and whatever new life she was planning behind my back. I started digging into everything I could find. I got access to her bank accounts, her emails, anything that could give me a clue about her plans. That's when I found out she'd already bought a new place. She had this new condo downtown, a luxury place that cost a hell of a lot more than I thought she could afford on her own. She lied about her work, about her income, and yet somehow she managed to buy this expensive new place without me knowing. The money from the house sale, she claimed, was for her future, but I knew better. She'd been saving that money for months secretly while hiding all her plans from me. The worst part was that she was still lying, still denying everything. When I confronted her with the proof, she got defensive, started throwing accusations my way. She said I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her, that I was just jealous and insecure. She told me I was overreacting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. That's when I saw her true colors, the manipulative bitch she's always been. She's good at twisting things around so that she's the victim, even when she's the one who's been screwing everything up. I could see she was already trying to spin this to her advantage, painting herself as the wronged wife and me as the jealous, suspicious husband. I was boiling inside. I couldn't believe she was playing me like this, like I was some fool she could manipulate. All I wanted was the truth, but she kept lying, kept twisting everything. I decided I needed to get some concrete evidence, so I hired a private investigator. I needed to know exactly what she was up to, how far she'd gone. The pie found more than I expected. More lies, more secret accounts, and even evidence that she'd been in contact with Chris, my so-called best friend, about the sale and the money. They'd been planning this for months, probably even longer. I was devastated, not just because she cheated or because she stole our house, but because she'd betrayed everything I believed in: our marriage, our friendship, my trust. I started to see her for who she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who only cared about herself. I'd wasted years thinking she was this caring wife, but she was just a con artist, hiding her true self behind a pretty face and a bitchy attitude. I knew I had to act, but I didn't want to do anything reckless. I wanted to be smart about this. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time with everything laid out on the table. I was going to make her own up to what she'd done, and I was going to take back what was mine: our house, the money, and my dignity. I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this one. I'd already lost a lot, but I still had some pride left, and I was determined to fight for it. That night, I sat her down in the living room, the proof spread out on the coffee table. Her face went pale when she saw the bank statements, the emails, the notarized documents. I could see her trying to come up with a lie on the spot, but I didn't give her the chance. I told her I knew everything about the sale, the money, her affair with Chris, everything. Her reaction was priceless. She tried to deny everything, but the evidence was too overwhelming. She started yelling, calling me crazy, saying I was stalking her, that I was inventing things. She called me insecure and jealous, but I just looked at her and said, "You stole from me, Lisa. You lied to me, betrayed me, and you think I'll just forget? Not this time." That was the moment I realized I couldn't stay married to her. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after all she'd done. I knew I had to get her out of my life for good. I told her I wanted a divorce, that I wanted my fair share of the house and the money we earned together. She started crying, of course, trying to guilt me, saying I was ruining her life. But I didn't care. She'd already ruined ours. All I cared about now was getting the truth out, protecting what little was left of my dignity, and making her pay for what she did. The following days were a whirlwind. She kept claiming she was innocent, that I was crazy, that I had no right to take her money or the house. She even threatened to sue me, saying I had no right to the divorce settlement or the cash she'd hidden. I knew she was bluffing, but it made me realize how dangerous she was. She was willing to do anything to keep her new life and leave me with nothing. That's when I decided I'd fight her in court, get an attorney, and make sure she couldn't cheat me out of what's rightfully mine. This whole thing has left me drained, honestly. I never thought I'd be the guy who'd get screwed over like this. It's a brutal lesson about trust, betrayal, and how some people will go to any lengths to get what they want. But I also learned something important. I'm not weak, and I won't let her manipulate me anymore. I've got the proof, I've got the law on my side, and I'm going to fight for what's mine. It's just a matter of time before she realizes she can't lie her way out of this mess. After I laid everything out on the table, proof of the house sale, the hidden money, her affair with Chris, her reaction was exactly what I expected. Denial, then rage, then tears. She tried to spin it all, claiming I was paranoid, that I'd misunderstood, that she never sold the house and the money was a gift or something. But I had the documents, the emails, the bank statements. No matter how much she yelled or cried, I knew the truth. Still, she kept insisting she was innocent, that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous of Chris. Honestly, I felt numb. The betrayal was so deep I didn't even know what to feel anymore. Anger, disgust, sadness, all of it at once. I looked her in the eyes and told her she was a liar, that I wasn't going to sit around and be played for a fool. I told her I was done trusting her, that I'd make sure she paid for what she'd done. That's when she turned even more bitchy, snapping at me, saying I had no right to control her life, no right to her money, no right to the house. She spat out that I was just a jealous husband who couldn't handle her moving on. That was the moment I realized she was unredeemable. She was trying to manipulate me, trying to make me feel guilty for wanting my share of what she'd stolen. She kept saying she was the victim, that I was just a paranoid, insecure man who didn't understand her. But I knew better. I'd seen the proof, and I wasn't going to let her gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. I decided then I needed to get legal advice. I found a lawyer who specialized in divorce and property cases. I wanted to know what my rights were, what I could expect, and how to protect myself. The lawyer told me that the house was jointly owned, that she couldn't sell it without my consent, and that I had a strong case for reclaiming my share of the sale. The lawyer also warned me about her trying to hide or transfer assets, and that I should be prepared for a fight. I felt a glimmer of hope, finally some clarity. If I played my cards right, I could at least get my fair share back. Meanwhile, Lisa was still insisting she'd done nothing wrong. She kept claiming she was starting fresh, that she was entitled to her new condo and that I had no right to interfere. She even accused me of being controlling and jealous, saying I was just upset because I was losing her. That's laughable, honestly. I didn't care about her starting fresh. I cared about being betrayed, about losing everything I'd worked for, and about my dignity. Then, out of nowhere, she threatened to sue me if I tried to take her to court over the house or money. Said I had no right to her assets because she was the real owner of the new condo and the sale proceeds. That was the moment I realized how far she was willing to go. She's a master manipulator, and she's already spinning this story to make herself look like the victim. I knew I had to act fast and get everything documented. I couldn't let her get away with this, not after all she'd done. In the days that followed, I worked tirelessly on gathering evidence, talking to lawyers, and planning my next move. I kept feeling this mix of anger and helplessness. How could she do this? How could she take everything from me? The house, my trust, my best friend, even my dignity, and then have the nerve to deny it all. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach 100 times over. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to fight for what was rightfully mine. I also started thinking about the emotional toll. I couldn't sleep, kept replaying everything in my head. The image of her with Chris, the secret sale, her lies, it all haunted me. I questioned myself, wondered if I'd missed the signs, if I'd somehow been blind. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. She was just good at hiding her true self, and now I was paying the price. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry, and exhausted all at once. I didn't know how I was going to get through this, but I knew I had to stay strong, because if I didn't fight for myself, no one would. So I made a decision. I was going to divorce her, fight for my share of the assets, and make sure she couldn't cheat me out of what was mine. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was done playing nice. This was war, and I was going to win. I didn't care what she said, what she threatened, or how much she tried to spin her lies. The truth was out, and I was going to make sure everyone knew what she really was: a liar, a cheat, and a manipulative woman who didn't deserve my trust. The legal process moved faster than I expected, but I was ready for it. I had all the evidence I needed: bank statements, emails, the notarized sale document, and the proof of her buying a new condo. I hired a lawyer who specialized in property and divorce cases, and from the start, she told me I had a strong case. The house was legally owned jointly, and she couldn't sell it without my approval. The money from the sale was technically ours, and she'd hidden it in some offshore account. She didn't think I'd find. I was furious, but at least I had facts on my side now. Lisa, of course, refused to give in easily. She kept claiming she had done nothing wrong, that I was just a jealous, insecure husband trying to control her. She spun stories about how she was starting fresh, how I was holding her back, and how I was just upset because she was leaving. She even accused me of being emotionally abusive, which was laughable. I never laid a hand on her, never raised my voice. Yet somehow, she managed to turn herself into the victim. That's her game: twist everything around so she's the wronged party, no matter how much she's actually the one at fault. She started calling friends, family, anyone who would listen, trying to spread her version of the story. She told them I was paranoid and crazy, that I'd been controlling and abusive. I heard from some mutual friends that she was painting me as the villain, that I was trying to ruin her life. Meanwhile, she was already moving her stuff into that new condo, acting like she'd already won. That's when I realized her plan was to just walk away with everything: our house, the money, and her new life, while I was left holding the bag. I decided I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to stand my ground. I filed for divorce, demanding my fair share of the assets, including the sale proceeds and the equity in the house. I also asked for an injunction to freeze her assets and prevent her from transferring or hiding any more money. The court date was set, and I felt a little relief. Finally, some official recognition that she couldn't just take everything and run. But Lisa wasn't done. She started playing dirty. She hired her own lawyer, who tried to argue that she was the sole owner of the new condo and that she had the right to keep the sale money, even if it was technically ours. She claimed she'd inherited the house from her parents, even though I had the sale documents proving otherwise. She also tried to accuse me of abuse and manipulation, trying to turn the court against me. I knew she was desperate, that she was panicking because she saw her plans falling apart. I stayed calm, kept my evidence organized, and let my lawyer handle the court filings. I knew I had the truth on my side, and I refused to let her manipulate her way out of this. I also hired a forensic accountant to track the hidden accounts and assets she'd been trying to conceal. The more I dug, the more I found about her schemes: offshore accounts, shell companies, fake invoices. She was a pro at hiding money, but I was determined to find every penny she'd stolen. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but feel betrayed on a personal level. Every time I saw her face, I remembered the woman I once loved, the woman I married. Now she was just a stranger, a schemer who'd used me and discarded me like trash. It hurt more than I thought possible. I'd trusted her with everything: our savings, our future, even my own heart, and she'd thrown it all away for some affair and a quick buck. I also started reflecting on the friendship I thought I had with Chris. How could he do this to me? How could he betray me like that, knowing how much I cared about him? I still remember the day I confronted him. I called him up, told him I knew about the affair, about the house, about the money. His excuse: "It's not what you think, Mike. Lisa's just emotionally unstable, and I was just trying to help her." Help her? He was helping himself to my wife, my money, my life. I felt sick just thinking about it. I thought he was my best friend, and now I saw him for what he really was: a selfish, manipulative bastard who'd do anything for a quick thrill or a few bucks. As the court case drew closer, I knew I had to brace myself for whatever she'd throw at me next. She might try to lie her way out of everything, or worse, escalate her schemes. I was prepared to fight dirty if I had to expose her for who she really was. I was also starting to realize that this wasn't just about the money or the house. It was about respect, integrity, and protecting myself from her manipulations. The emotional toll was immense. I felt like I was losing my mind some days, questioning whether I'd ever recover from this betrayal. But I also knew that I couldn't let her win. I had to stay focused, stay strong, and see this through to the end. Because at the end of the day, I deserved to be treated with honesty and respect, and I wasn't going to let her steal that from me. Not anymore. The court date finally arrived, and I was a nervous wreck. All the evidence I had gathered was laid out, proof of the sale, the hidden accounts, her affair with Chris, the new condo, everything. I knew she'd try to spin things her way, but I also knew I had the law on my side. My lawyer prepared me for her tactics. She'd probably try to claim I was controlling, jealous, or even mentally unstable. That's her MO: twist, deflect, and blame everyone else while she covers her tracks. When the hearing started, Lisa sat across from me, looking smug like she already thought she'd won. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was the sole owner of the new condo, that the sale of our house was a misunderstanding, and that I had no right to claim any of the proceeds. She even tried to say I'd been abusive, which was laughable. I think she figured if she could make me look bad enough, the judge would side with her. But I stayed calm, kept my voice steady, and presented my evidence clearly. The notarized sale documents, the bank statements showing the transfer, the emails from her discussing her plans, all of it was laid out for the judge. The judge listened carefully, asked a few questions, and then looked directly at Lisa. She asked her to explain the sale and the missing money. Lisa's face went pale and she started stammering. She tried to deny everything, claiming she never sold the house, that she didn't have the money, that I was just trying to ruin her. But I saw through her lies. I handed over the documents and she had no choice but to sit there and listen. The judge then addressed me, asking whether I believed I was entitled to half of the sale proceeds and the house's equity. I answered honestly, explaining how she'd lied, manipulated, and betrayed me. I told her how she'd hidden the money, lied about her income, and cheated on me with Chris. I explained that I wanted my fair share and that I wouldn't let her get away with stealing everything I worked for. After a tense hour, the judge made her ruling. She ordered Lisa to pay me half of the sale proceeds as well as my share of the house's equity. She also ordered her to provide a full accounting of all assets and to return any hidden funds. The ruling was clear. Lisa was not going to walk away with everything. She was going to have to settle up. I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Finally, some justice. But Lisa wasn't done fighting. She immediately appealed, claiming the court had no right to interfere with her property rights, that she'd been unfairly targeted. She also threatened to sue me for defamation and emotional distress. I knew this wasn't over yet. She was desperate, cornered, and willing to do whatever it took to keep her new life intact. I prepared myself for a long fight, knowing that she'd try to drag this out as long as possible. In the meantime, I started the process of moving on. I found a new place to live, closer to work, and started rebuilding my life. I cut ties with most of her friends and family, people who believed her stories and sided with her. I didn't need that negativity around me anymore. I also reached out to some old friends, people I trusted, and slowly started to regain my confidence. Throughout this process, I realized I'd learned a lot about myself. I learned that I was stronger than I thought, that I could stand up against lies and manipulation, and that I deserved honesty and respect. I also learned that some people, especially those who betray you, are just not worth your time or energy. The betrayal from Lisa and Chris cut deep, but it also taught me to be more cautious, more guarded, and more aware of red flags I might have ignored before. Looking back, I wish I could say I found closure right away, but honestly, it's still a work in progress. There are days when I feel angry, days when I feel broken, but I also feel a sense of relief, knowing I fought for what's right, that I didn't let her steal everything without a fight. I want others to know that even when you're betrayed in the worst way, you can pick yourself up. You can fight back. And sometimes justice might take time, but it's worth it. Most importantly, I've learned that trust is precious. Once broken, it's hard to rebuild. But I also know that I'll be okay. I'll move forward stronger and wiser. And maybe someday I'll find someone who truly values honesty and respect. Until then, I'll keep rebuilding my life, one step at a time. The whole ordeal has changed me in ways I never expected. For months, I felt like I was walking around in a fog trying to process what had happened. Her betrayal, the lies, the loss of everything I thought was stable. But slowly, I started to see things differently. I realized I had been blind for too long, ignoring the signs, trusting too easily. That's on me, but it's also a valuable lesson. Never take trust for granted, especially with people who show even the slightest red flags. The court case finally wrapped up, and I got what was legally mine, my fair share of the house sale, the equity, and the peace of mind of knowing I fought for it. Lisa's attempts to drag things out, to manipulate and threaten, only made me more determined. I learned to stand my ground, to be cautious about who I trust, and to value myself. More, I also learned that no matter how much someone betrays you, there's always a way to come out stronger if you stay honest and true to yourself. Looking back, I can see I was naive, thinking my marriage was unbreakable, thinking my best friend was loyal. But now I know better. People can surprise you in terrible ways. And sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to cut the toxic ties and start over. It's not easy, and it hurts like hell, but it's necessary. I've come to accept that some betrayals are so deep that forgiveness isn't possible, and that's okay. Moving on is the real victory. I've also learned to be more cautious with my emotions. I used to believe in the fairy tale version of marriage, but now I know that honesty and communication are everything. If I ever get close to someone again, I'll be more careful, more observant. I won't ignore the red flags, and I won't let anyone manipulate me again. I've lost a lot, but I gained clarity and strength. That's priceless. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you love someone or how comfortable you think you are. Gather evidence, get legal advice if needed, and don't be afraid to fight for what's rightfully yours. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to define you. You have the power to rebuild, to move forward, and to come out of it stronger. And finally, I've learned that life goes on. No matter how bad things seem, there's always a way to start over. I may never fully forget what happened, but I can learn from it. I can grow. I can find happiness again, probably with someone who truly values honesty and respect. For now, I'm focusing on healing, on making sure I never get betrayed like that again, and on finding peace within myself. This whole experience has been a brutal wake-up call, but I'm grateful I survived it. I know I'll be okay. And I hope anyone else going through similar pain finds the strength to carry on, to fight for themselves, and to remember that they deserve better. Because at the end of the day, nobody should settle for lies, betrayal, or manipulation. Trust yourself, stand tall, and never let anyone steal your worth.